Hello, everybody. It's just me, ordinary man with ordinary takes. I've had to branch out into a solo show today. It's been a little while since I've been able to get with Ethan, so instead of making hot takes with hot idiots a one-man show, I'm making a side show here, ordinary takes with an ordinary man. So let's jump right into it. It's been a while since we've caught up, so I just want to kind of look over the league, catch up with you guys, and we'll see where it goes from here. So some of you might have noticed that there's a guy named Caleb Brondos in the chat. Who is Caleb Brondos? Well, Caleb Brondos, he's a dreamer. He has big dreams. He has big thoughts. He has a lot of vision. He's a little bit of a wild card. He's a crazy man. He does crazy things sometimes, unexpectedly, because he seems like a normal man. And he's a builder. I think he builds teams, he builds friendships, and he built campfires, I guess. I don't know. There's a picture of him with some sticks there. Caleb is friends with Thomas and I. I've got a picture here of Caleb and Thomas dancing with my mom. Kind of a weird thing here. Close buddies. And Thomas, wasn't really managing the team too well. And it wasn't really bringing him joy. So Thomas went ahead and handed it over to Caleb. And Caleb Brondos now is, he's taking over. He's doing what he can. Like all of us when we started, he knows nothing about fantasy baseball. So how's the new guy doing? Well, I can only really look at week 9, 10, 11, 12. When he took over. He took over halfway through week 8. So since taking over, he's gone 18 wins, 20 losses, 2 ties. That sounds kind of average, but honestly, I think it's pretty great. He took over dead last team, and in the middle of the season, and he's being active, and he's got to figure it out. So he is still figuring it out. However, I think after watching this video and making some adjustments and, just general managing skills, he's going to keep getting better over the year, and I'm excited to have him. So now that you guys know Caleb has taken over for Thomas, you might be wondering, well, how is Thomas doing? Well, the answer is bad. Thomas is doing terrible. There's a lot of rains recently in Fort Wayne, and I have a picture there of him in his hot tub, but that's kind of just his basement now. It's flooded. I don't know if this is a curse for leaving the league or what, but Thomas is not doing well. Things in life have taken a turn, and it's been all downhill for Thomas since he left. Anyway, looking at the standings, there's been some movement. Some familiar spots like Scott on top and Thomas's rad team on bottom. Also, just, by the way, I really appreciate that Caleb kept the name Thomas's rad team. And I hope he continues to keep it. And he's tied now, 44 wins with Chris. So he's finally closing in on that ability to jump up into 9th place. It's kind of exciting. And since, the top 6 teams make the playoffs, I think that, that Caleb is not out of it. So it's very possible Caleb turns the season around, gets into the playoffs, and I'm here for it. Some big movement. I would say myself jumping up to 3rd. Now, I won't recap the whole beginning of the year and how bad I was doing, but just recently even, I've been doing pretty well. If you look at the last 3 weeks, I'm 22 wins, 8 losses. I have to sneeze 1 second. Sorry about that, friends. Coming off of COVID, and it's been a long week. My voice sounds different. I'm still in recovery. Anyway, I've been killing it the last 3 weeks, and I face the number 1 team, Scott, this week. I think that matchup could still go either way. I'm not ready to call that, but it's been a good turnaround. I'm in 3rd place right now, fighting for 2nd even, if depending on how Lucas does. Kind of going the other direction would be Ethan's team. Ethan's team was up here in the top 3 for a while, but over the last 3 weeks, he's gone 9 and 19. So bad luck for him, bad management. Okay, so Ethan's team, 3-6 versus Art, 2-8 versus myself, 4-5 versus Scott. So now he's currently 2-8 versus Thomas's rad team at the time of this recording, which would be a huge win for Caleb. However, there's a lot of time left in the week. I'm not going to call it, but needless to say, he's been 9 wins, 19 losses in the last 3 weeks. He is flying down the charts in the wrong direction. So, not good. Not good. I guess there's not too much to recap beyond that. He's doing terrible as of recently. So let's look at the league pitching just as a whole. So a lot of work for Caleb's team. He's dead last in 3 of the categories, and he's very close to dead last. He's very close to last in wins and saves. So he has 32 wins. The worst team is 30, and he only has 23 saves. He has 27 saves. The worst team is 23. So he's a little bit ahead there. Not good. He needs to do a lot of work there. There's no other super dominant team. I guess one of the more dominant pitching teams would be my own. I'm number 1 in wins, and I'm number 1 in strikeouts, and I'm very high in saves. I have 44. I believe that's third place, and first place is 50. So been doing good on saves, and my ERA is still the second best, I believe, and whip, I think I'm middle of the road. So pretty dominant pitching team. I drafted my team to be a dominant pitching team, but I truly think I've gotten such a high win and strikeout rate simply by streaming. So what do you mean by streaming, Andrew? I feel like I've explained streaming on this podcast a few times, or the previous podcast. Some teams get it, some teams don't. And when you look at this picture, it is very obvious when you look at all the red that Chris, Ethan, and Thomas's team do not really get pitching or streaming pitching. It's very low, and you'd say, well, okay, they're starting just very high quality pitchers to save their ERA and whip, but then you go back up and you look at their ERA and whip, and it's like, no, they're not. They don't have a super high ERA or whip, so it's simply they're just not streaming. So the average is 60 innings pitched per week, so I put a decent week at 55 to 65 innings pitched in the week, and Caleb has done that one time since taking over the team. In fact, I thought this to be the easiest thing to fix Thomas's team was, okay, they just need a manager who's going to stream pitchers, and it's going to be a really good team. And he's actually started a lot less pitching than Thomas's just like AFK team was. So he's dropped down to 36 innings pitched in week 10 and 37 innings pitched week 12. So not good. it's going the other direction, which is kind of surprising. So to recap streaming pitching, just imagine you're pitching, right? You have your starting pitchers and you have, your relief pitchers. That's all fine. You can roster however many you want. The important thing is you got one guy that's probably trash and worth dropping on your team. And let's say, for this example, he starts on Tuesday. Okay? We got a pitcher starting on Tuesday. He starts, doesn't matter if he does good, doesn't matter if he does bad. You're going to drop him, and you're going to replace him using one of your substitutions. You get 6 every single week. You use one of those substitutions to pick up another starting pitcher on Wednesday. You do this again on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? If in the perfect world, you can use all 6 of your substitutions, especially if your batting's fine. You can use all 6 of your substitutions to get 6 extra starting pitchers. So that can end up being a lot of innings pitched. You can see in week 8, I started 97.2 innings. I had 97.2 innings pitched. So, you look at that compared to Caleb's 36 innings pitched in week 10, it becomes very quickly obvious who is not streaming pitching and who is. Chris has been terrible as well. He's at 652 innings pitched. Ethan's only at 638. And then Thomas, now Caleb's team, 585.9. So last by a mile. That 36 innings and 37 innings pitched weeks recently have really made him fall down the rankings there. Sitting at the top of the rankings, myself at 838, I have a pretty good lead right now as far as that goes. But there are 5 teams, I believe, over 800 innings pitched this year. So that would be Nick, Aaron, Scott, Art, and myself. I was surprised Lucas wasn't on this list, but for the first 6 weeks, he really wasn't starting a lot of pitchers. So, I don't know. He's just behind. But yeah, I would say there's 6 teams out of 10 in this league that are clearly streaming pitchers pretty much every week. Aaron, since week 7, has had a lot of pitchers going. I feel like he's picked up on streaming. Lucas and myself have been doing it all year. I believe Scott's been doing it all year. And, of course, Art knows about it. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess my advice to some of these teams that aren't streaming, as much as it sucks, because the more teams that are streaming, the harder it gets each day for me to stream, right? Like, when I go to look at the available streamers for each day, because I'm looking every single day, there might be 4 or 5 available guys, and, maybe one of them has a good matchup. So if all 10 of us are looking at the same people, it makes it harder to do. So I'm hurting myself by telling you this, but yeah, I think Chris and Thomas's teams specifically could just completely turn their seasons around by streaming pitchers. So I mention it here for your benefit. All right, let's take a look at league batting. So I don't know. The big standout for me is Lucas. I thought Lucas would have a good batting team. I did not think he would be on the same level as Art or Chris, who I thought was going to have an amazing batting team early on in the year. And through injuries and just lack of finding people to start, Chris's team is not a dominant team in batting right now. Or really all year, he hasn't been outside of the first 2 weeks. So looking at the best and worst in these categories here, runs, that would be Lucas, 460. And last place in runs is Chris, 389. So quite a big jump. I think runs, if you were just going to take one category to look at someone's batting, I feel like runs is the one to do it. I think that's the best way to just look overall at how the team's doing. You could argue average if you want. I would not, because Chris's team has been doing horrible in batting and he's number 1 in average. So I think that's a point right there on why average isn't that important. Since I'm saying the best, I might as well say the worst. The worst in average is my team. By far, I'm at .24. I will say I'm finally closing in. The first couple of weeks, I was like insanely far behind. It was a crazy outlier, and I've slowly been working my way back with my average, and I think I'm close now. I'm .003 average away from not being last. So it's been a long climb, guys, but I'm making my way. Looking at home runs, Lucas' team, number 1. Ethan's team, dead last. Ethan's at 95. Lucas is at 142 home runs. So way, way ahead. He's way ahead of everyone, honestly. 130 for Scott, and then I think third place is myself, 126, and then it jumps down to like 116. So commanding home run lead and run lead for Lucas. RBIs, first place is Scott, 469, and dead last would be Nick, 357. Surprising, because Nick starts so many batters each week. He's by far the most at-bats, and he's just kind of average when you look at the results from that. So at least he's putting together a starting roster each week. But yeah, his batting's been tough. Stolen bases, number 1, and it is by a ton, is Vince. He has 80 stolen bases. Dead last would be Lucas, 36, clearly not even trying for stolen bases. Same with Chris, 38. I mean, just not not at all even trying for stolen bases, I guess. But yeah, Vince at 80 is just a lot. Second place would be Nick with 68, and then third place myself with 65. So way ahead of us even. And then we kind of already talked about batting average. So let's take a look at bats. I think this speaks more to health, really. If you look at my team, which is honestly slightly below the league average because of how well other teams are doing at starting batters, but you can see like the range I put is 220 to 240 at bats per week, and I am green only 4 weeks, but I'm within that range of 220 to 240 every other week. I've never been red. I never roster more than one bench batter, so I have like no backup, no answers really ever, and I'm still managing to get yellow. So it's kind of crazy to me how any team could end up in the red, because I have injuries and scratches and stuff like that every week as well, and I'm just never in the red. So it's kind of crazy to me how anyone could end up in the red. Thomas's team, which is now Caleb's team, which is basically AFK all year, was only in the red once, and it was just barely. It was 3 bats at short, and that was week 4. So that being said, you take a look at Chris's team, and he's made the yellow 3 times, so 220 to 240, and every other week he's been in the red. Every other week, all year. So really just, yeah, I haven't looked through week to week to see what's going on there. Maybe I'll do a deep dive once we get to the player cards later this season, but man, his team is just not getting bats. He's not getting it done. He's at 2,592 bats on the year compared to Lucas, who's at 3,054 bats. I mean, it's almost 500 more at-bats. So you can see why Chris's team is not getting it done as far as like all the batting stats, the counting stats, right? Like, he's just so many less at-bats. He has to, I don't know, drop these injured players or trade them for healthy players, or just start picking up guys on the bench to fill in people when they're getting sat certain days. I don't know, but he's way behind on bats. The other teams that kind of stick out to me, Vince, he's only been in the green, which is above 240, once all year. And he's been in the red 4 times. And then Ethan's team, since week 5, he's only been in the red once. So the first 4 weeks he was in the red, though. But I think his team's fine now, so I wouldn't even really call it an outlier anymore. The main one for me is definitely Chris's team is just consistently way behind. And it's shocking to me because at the beginning of the year, he seemed clearly like a dominant batting team. And it's just, his batting and his pitching are way behind. So, takeaways from the numbers. Despite being ahead in stolen bases by miles, we talked about Vince had 80. He's had 2 losses and 2 ties in stolen bases this year. So 4 weeks he didn't win stolen bases, even though he's miles ahead of everyone. Nick and Lucas consistently have above average at bats. Yes, they've got a lot of bats. Nick, I guess just in general, he has a lot of innings pitched. He has a lot of at bats. So it's not always quality, but he has high quantity. And you know, looking at the standings, I can't say it's not working. He's still top 6. So he's been very. I view that as active. When I see high at bats and high innings pitched, to me that means this is a very active manager. So he's doing what he can. Caleb's team is 13, 43, and 4 in pitching, and is by far the least innings pitched this year. And Chris's team has the least amount of at-bats. So, yeah, 43 of Caleb's team's losses come from pitching, and his pitching's still terrible. And I want to go back really quick to league pitching. Yeah, okay, we did cover it. He's dead last in 3 of the categories, and wins and saves, he's close to last. So, yeah, a lot of room for improvement for Caleb. In my opinion, when he took over the team, I thought, I can't do worse at pitching than Thomas was doing, because Thomas wasn't really streaming any pitching. Caleb hasn't streamed a lot of pitching yet, but I think as he learns more about fantasy baseball, he's going to realize, okay, if I just stream pitches, I can just win the win category and strikeout category purely just off of loading up a bunch of pitchers. And you know what? My whip and ERA are dead last in this fucking league, so it can't hurt it. So yeah, we'll see what happens. All right. Oh, this is just a slide. I don't know if you guys noticed. A lot of us are silver now. By a lot of us, I mean 4 of us. Scott, Lucas, myself, and Nick have all reached the rank of silver currently. So, yeah, it feels nice, make that little jump. It seems like gold will take a while. I have a lot of respect for the platinum that Art is at, because, see, it's not something you just get in a season. So I am impressed that I've made my way up to silver. And, yeah, this week's matchups. I think they're all too close to call. I looked at the Art versus Nick, which is 7-2 right now, but honestly, a lot of those categories are super close. There's still 2 nights left. The only game I guess we can call now, Lucas has let me say that again. Lucas has congratulated Aaron on the win this week. So it's 7-3, but I guess it's decided at this point. And I did screenshot the little shit talking that Lucas did at the beginning of the week on Monday. I was saying how I needed Aaron and Nick to do well this week, and Lucas said not likely for Aaron. So, yeah, happy to see Aaron win it. I guess we can all call it. I'll take Lucas's word on it. No way that backfires. So, all right, this has been an ordinary talk from an ordinary man. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye.